Now let's talk about Vivek for a moment. I think that watching him last night, I have seen a lot of this charisma as I followed them on the campaign trail very much translate to on stage. He's very good at working a crowd. I don't think anybody can deny that. But they called out a lot of his flaws, being the only person that doesn't have a political track record, especially not being elected into office before. I mean, what do you see as the outcome from his performance? Do you think this is going to really start pulling him ahead?
In fact, I think the opposite. That I think that Vivek, that's how it's pronounced apparently, that Vivek rhymes with cake is how I
Yes,
come
I
into I
was told that
remember
on the
it.
campaign trail too. The bake like cake.
Bake like cake. So in his case, he did have that momentum going, and he get that charisma that you mentioned was something other people talked about, and people said yes, he's very personable, he's very charming kind of a person, which you kind of expect. A successful business person is often that way, although sometimes you can have examples of people that are otherwise. But that's sort of his style, and it came across very well and got him a lot of attention. But the problem is he doesn't have perhaps enough experience to back it up. Now, the guy's 38, which is not extremely young, but it's kind of young for presidential politics. Usually, by the time somebody's running for president, they've had a fair amount of experience. Sometimes in the business world, like him, or even Burgum is another one who's got a business experience. Trump, of course, but if they have no political experience, then it can be more difficult in terms of certain issues. Foreign policy is one. And even they talked about how he doesn't have a lot of experience. And it hurt him last night, especially when he was going toe to toe with Nikki Haley, who does have that foreign policy experience. Now, again, even if you don't necessarily agree with Haley's position and agree with Ramaswamy's, still, she did a better job of defending the position than he did because he doesn't have the experience to back it up. And it just in general, you sometimes get folks from the business world that come in and say, hey, we need to have government that's more efficient, more business-like, and so forth. And that's good in terms of wanting to have government that's more efficient. But if you don't know how government works to start with, it's going to be very difficult for you to make changes. And pretty much every person that becomes president finds that out. They make all kinds of promises on the campaign trail, and a lot of that stuff just doesn't happen because especially the federal government is so large that it's extremely difficult to get anything major done unless you have some sort of event that really changes the dynamic. And one example of that with 9/11, that because of the intense nature of that and what happened there, it allowed government to make huge changes, establish the Department of Homeland Security, and as a result, basically a lot of agencies got shifted around in ways that the legislators really couldn't resist because of the situation post 9/11. But back to Ramaswamy, that in terms of sort of that juice that he's got, it certainly appeals to people. It appeals to younger people, and that's not surprising what his kind of audience is. It's sort of how he goes about that, his charisma, his charm, and so forth. But he's got to back it up with more. As I was saying before, the all hat no cap kind of a thing is he's got to have more substance, more principles to back up what he's saying, partly so that he isn't seemingly reversing himself every couple of months on whatever it is he believes, but also that he's got more information to be able to bring to the table in terms of supporting whatever position he's advocating.